Welcome to Dawn Capital. Whether you're a Baroness with a book, or an investor like myself, or someone who's just here to want to learn a bit more about what's going on in business, welcome. Just a bit of an introduction. I'm Zoe. I'm one of the investors here at Dawn Capital, and I'm the head of AI investments here as well. We are a B2B software fund based in London, investing across Europe. We currently have over 2 billion in AUM, and we invest in business software from infrastructure, fintech, application security software, and all the whole spectrum. Some of our earlier UK investments include Mindcast, which went public and then was taken private, and 6 billion valuation a couple of years back, and Texa that just closed their Series F announcement last week. And here at Dawn Capital, we are committed to supporting women in the workplace in any forms. Within the fund, we have about 50-50 women voting IC members at our investment committee, and we continue to invest in women-led businesses in industries such as fintech and infrastructure over the years. We use this space. We are very delighted to welcome you all here. We continue to use our space to host events that have purposes and raise awarenesses. So this includes the event today, it includes some of the drinks and topical discussions, and we also support a series of hackathons that help broaden access and awareness of technology to students and early career professionals across the UK. So that's all of a short introduction from my side. Again, thank you very much, everybody, for making it here on such a crisp London day, and hope you enjoy the conversations going forward. Thank you.
What motivates us as human beings, and what inspires us, and what do we as people find fulfilling? Not perhaps the most obvious beginning of a seminar about AI, but actually that is what we're going to talk about today, because two people that I'm really delighted to have on the on my panel today took that as their starting point, I think, and who in different ways wrote the most cracking book about how to use data and stories to raise people up. That's really fundamentally what we're going to talk about, and we're going to begin by getting both of them to introduce themselves as they want, with their own interesting stories. So, Edwina, first of all, to you.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be here. I love the whole conversations around AI. I suppose when I started work, it was really data and technology, and that's the way it was described. And I was more in the data camp, and I saw technology as a tool. And I started off by looking at census data, then I moved into bookclub data, which was like pig heaven, it was just beautiful. This rich, gorgeous, constantly changing data, and that's where I had my big adventure. Because really what we showed was that consumers weren't all the same, they wanted and needed different things. I then started the Female Lead as very much a personal thank you project, my own thank you, and discovered that actually it wasn't going to be solved easily. So I thought again about data and science. And what I now believe is that, and it's kind of obvious, but no one really talks about it, women are not all the same. They don't want or need the same things. And sadly, we're not easily classified into our age and whether we're married or not. It's more complicated, right? And so I'm very much on a mission. I'm always on a mission, but I'm on a mission to prove that not only are women more complex, more nuanced, but if you understand that as a leader or as a business, you can make a lot more money than you're making today. So for me, part of the argument I'm putting forward is that women are mostly because they are 70 to 80% of everything that's bought in the world. So, yeah, we're decision makers, we're not shopaholics, even though we're getting shoes in the front. So that's my story, and I'm thrilled to be here who is a legend with what she does, where she began, and the work she's doing now. So I'm thrilled to be here and hand over. Mother.
Well, this set the scene for us. How did a history graduate get into tech? And what was it like being a woman getting into tech back in the day? Lead us where we are now.
I think that you start with a proposition that I would say I'm a complete chance, because I'm not a technologist. I used to keep a book of Java programming on my desk at busminute.com to scare the tech team in case they thought I could understand what they were talking about. And I guess if I can prove anything from up and down, it is that you can look like me and still build a career. I was an ancient modern historian. I like ideas and themes and innovation, and that was what drew me. And just a series of haphazard events with really no plan at all meant that I was lucky enough to co-found business busminute.com back when people really didn't think likely to probably survive, let alone buy things as a thing. Spend a whole time convincing people. And if you can, none of you, because you're all far too young, but it was very surprising to me back then that people didn't think this was going to change the world. But it was very surprising to me now that it has changed the world in the way that it has. And I really thought that in 1998, when we started our business, there would be hundreds of people that look like me all over the world who had had their lives transformed by the impact of technology. And although that is true to a degree, the world is looked and mapped in a way that I never expected. And I guess that's what's motivated me over the last 20 years. You know, I had a strange experience. I survived the dot-com crash and then the real world crash. I've been forever twice. And post my accident, I think what I've really tried to do is think about the intersection of technology and society and business in a way, although they're obviously linked, and to try and fight for the things that I believed back in 1998 that have not come to pass, which are that technology is accessible for everybody, and not just that, it's made fun. And that everybody can have a role in the future, and that is just not the case. And I don't want to be a downer in the first 1.5 minutes of this, but I'm pretty angry and depressed right now. Pretty angry and depressed. And I thought for a while, I'm not an angry person, I'm generally pretty optimistic. I've had right again, but I am pretty angry because the numbers are horrific when you look at the power of the money in our sector. This is a sector that is eating the world. Matters competitive everywhere, and it's not going to get smaller, it is going to get bigger. So that's what's motivated me, and I work across business and government.
In the book, I think it's fair to say that you both talk a little bit about the discrimination that you faced as women. You were just at various points just not taken serious for no good reason.
Good reason, Michael.
Well, yeah, maybe, but a technology is only a tool to doing something, isn't it? And you know a lot about what it is it was supposed to do in the way that maybe blokes called Dave didn't. And I suppose the thing I would say, given that we've gone through the technology developments now, do you think that discrimination has gone away? Do you think it's changed, or do you think it's still there? But what have we learned in the last sort of 20 years that by coming together we can begin to change?
Oh gosh, I don't know that it's changed a lot. I mean, we certainly have better representation on boards now, but if you look at where the power lies, where the equity lies, women only have about 2% of the equity. So is it fair? Is it balanced? No. I think there's quite a lot of window dressing, and And I think there's a real desire by women, especially at sort of age 40 plus, where many, 40, 50, where they're coming back into the workplace and they want their second life. They want to feel that, they have a fulfilled life. And so, how do you get back in when you've never been embraced fully in the first place? It's almost like a double difficult hurdle. So one of the things I'm really interested in is economic growth. Businesses governments are training women to equal numbers. We know that a lot of women will have this big life choice at a very specific age now. It's shrunk. It's sort of 35 to 30 to 40, 45, 30 to 40. It shifts a bit, 30 to 45, which is, do I have a family or not? And then also women are being asked to be responsible for later caring responsibility. So they have both of these. Does that mean they're not ambitious? Does that mean that having a job that you love and want to do is important? No. Men want a family, women want a family, but women pay with their career. And so one of the things we have to work on with the country and the world is, how do you do that as well as have a fulfilled life where you feel your skills, your intelligence, all the things that you grow to love don't get taken away from you, and you get told at the age of 50, not only do you have menopause, but you're kind of over when it comes to a career. It's not good, is it? So we have to change that.
Well, I think you've been through some life experiences and come back.
Yeah, I think it's even worse than that. I mean, I think, again, sorry, I'm angry. I've been reflecting on this. This is right, Mary, yes, absolutely. And I was reflecting on this because, I have a kind of love-hate relationship. Feels like a day when busy women just get to do more busy things. And I'm not sure it's many. And right now, you look at the numbers, it's awful. I'm just going to concentrate on technology. That's until we're looking at today. The numbers are static, but not going backwards. The UK is particularly bad. I think it's about 13% of global leaders in tech, 5% of the UK, 1.8% of venture capital goes to women, 5% of venture capital partners are women, 20% of software engineers are women, and it's getting worse in a sector like industry, AI, deep tech, quantum, the things that you picked up, all that stuff. So it's really, really, I don't think anybody can watch the information of Trump because 6 men growing over him without feeling physically sick. And if, like me, you're prone to hyper emotion about this subject, it's so close to crying. And I don't cry a lot at all. So this is a very perilous moment because the industry that dominates the world, that is determining the political future of our democracy, the most important industries that are being built are being run by a few men in a very small area of the world. And we in Britain have an opportunity, I think, to carve out a different kind of world. And to Edwina's point, I completely agree with that. To say, you know what, you don't have to look like this type of person to be successful in this industry. And I don't want to build a company like Silicon Valley. No, thank you, that looks horrible. What I do want to do is make sure that everybody in this country has the opportunity to work in a way that works for them. And that's the great promise of technology. And I feel this very keenly. You see, I work with 2 things. I need flexibility in my work. And yet, I put my head in my hands when I hear more kind of tub thumping corporate leaders say, come back to the office, look like this, work really hard. It's like, excuse me. There are lots of different ways of working hard and contributing. And it's exactly the same point that Edwina is making. I don't feel we're making progress. I think we need to reframe this completely, because we also need to be honest that everything we've done in the last 20 years has not worked. Full stop. We've got to change how we think about it, involve different conversation. I love talking to groups of women, but it's completely pointless because we're not going to be able to do this without men in the other part of the equation. So I just challenge all of us to really radically because I don't think we could say what's done in the last 20 years.
Accept that blokes have got to be challenged, and I rather suspect that what will be most challenging for them is economic on.
Yes.
But to go back to the book, because there's a lot in the book about how women feel about leadership and involvement, and about what we can do to support each other as women, as we don't sideline that thought for any minute, but make ourselves better equipped to deal with it. Edwina, do you want to just run through some of the things that you found in your research?
Yes. I mean, I think the main thing is women want to work, you know, and actually it's how they work and how they balance life and work. That's the real challenge. And I think what leaders, mostly men, probably need to make themselves more aware of is the idea that if we now need 2 working adults per household to pay, because I mean it's hard enough now to get your foot on the property ladder, even with both parties working. So the thought that only a man will work is not terribly realistic for future generations. So how do we do that? We have the highest cost of childcare, which it's almost like it's funny, isn't it? It's almost like, can we find a way of making it harder? I think that there's a realization that we need women to work, and that, strangely enough, women on the whole don't have children on their own. It becomes the idea of how can we balance it. For example, you know, one of the things we find is that, you know, pensions, even in divorce situations, tend to be lodged as a male asset. So in most divorce settlements, pensions are not part of the settlement that women receive, which is a bit shocking again, because the woman ends up providing often continuity for the family. So they will take the house, they will take the money now to bring the family up, which means later in life, they've missed out on pension. And then who gets to look after them when there is no more money and they're on their own and the state pension has gone? So I think the good news is there are more and more sort of realizations right across business that actually we do need to sort out the balance of pension. Women live longer, sadly often in worse health, and so money is needed. And so how do we protect? So I think a lot of the pension business, a lot of the money business are now thinking, how do we build better products for women because of this situation? So the idea of developing products that understand the life that women are going through and understanding the communities, because as you rightly said, it's the stories that go with it, because women are telling us the life they lead. And if we're collecting data as well, we can combine the stories of real life with the quantification of how many and how much. And that then becomes a business case, which is what I'm trying to set out here. It's a business case, which is, you know, male leaders don't do this because it's fair. Do it because if you don't, we're all going to fail. There aren't going to be enough workers. There aren't going to be enough people staying in work. Businesses are training women and then they're not coming back. So actually, we have to do it. So what is the solution for everyone, rather than making this a woman's problem? It's not a woman's problem. It's the world's problem, which is we need women in work, happy, fulfilled, with children to pay the next generation, right?
One of the key things is about the power of two. Can you explain the power of two? Because I think it's played quite a big role then all you that you've done, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm a big fan of co-founding teams and working in concert with someone else, male or female. And I think that can often lead to more flexibility, often not. You know, the situation, not much flexibility to stop. But I think it's interesting that sometimes I feel the conversation becomes very much about, not of an individual, we must do this by yourself, start something, and actually it's very rarely that, in my experience, anybody with great titles, I suppose, who've done something alone, it's very rare. And actively thinking about, can I build a different kind of way of creating something that can be helpful? So I've often been in co-founding teams with the other person has been lots of different backgrounds and skills and different things I've done. So I really like that as a way of giving a bit more versatility, perhaps, and different places thinking about different skills.
May I add something to that? Because I'm really passionate about this. I mean, I started my business with my husband. He was my exact opposite. So he was maths and computing. He was really clever in my eyes anyway, because he could do all the things that I couldn't do. What I discovered was I was pretty good at business and doing deals. So I really loved that. And what I learned was he didn't like meeting lots of people, and he didn't like managing teams. So I got that job as well. So in the end, although we were the power of two, what we were able to do was lead together. I think it helped me because I was a woman in what would now be called AI, but it was called data and technology back then. And I think if I hadn't been with him, the only ones doing this, I don't think we'd have been as successful as we were. In the end, we built, an organization of 1,500, 2,000 people. We were serving businesses around the world. It was $1 billion company at the time we sold it. But it started with just the two of us. And so, how did that happen? Well, it happened because people couldn't buy from anyone else. We were the only one doing it in the world. It really helped that when I needed to, I didn't like it, but it helped that I had a man next to me. And then the second thing that really changed was we ended up with 50-50. So 1,000 of our employees were women, and they were amazing. And there was no problem hiring women for data and technology because we were there. And part of my work at Female Lead is you can't be what you can't see. So when you can see that two people can work together in this field, all of these challenges about can you hire women go away, because obviously you can. So for me, it became the mechanism to build a balanced, diverse business. And, I'm really proud that we did that. But what's interesting is it doesn't seem to it's really hard to recruit women into technology. Women are better at maths and physics. Girls are better than boys at maths and physics. It's just that girls choose not to because they see the atmosphere as toxic.
I really wish now, when I look back at last minute, I had a more data-led approach to the thing. And when I look back now, I remember total chaos, basically. But I know that the travel industry is actually as bad as technology in many ways for female leadership. And I know that because of being a mixed co-founding team, we have more women in leadership. It was exactly as you're pointing to, and it just happened kind of by osmosis, because obviously we're leading to a kind of working range of different people. Oh, maybe I can go and do that thing. Really, really important. I really believe the same thing, that you cannot underestimate that symbolic. Look, this is what we're trying to build, and we look like that, so therefore it might be for me.
Those are examples back in the days when we were just talking about data and of how having women around made a difference. We've got a number of questions, one of which is, you're already getting reports from Stanford and MIT that the base algorithms of AI are not are not properly drawn up to reflect. So, given your experience in the past, how do you think that we can move forward now and make sure that AI basis is proper and inclusive?
I mean, I think the first point is to try and keep fighting for transparency and accountability as opposed to opaque. It's opaque, and we're starting with LLMs, which I mean, because that's the basic building blocks. There's a bunch of different types of regulation that are floating around the world from the EU to what we try to do here in the City, to what's happening in different bits of the US. But I think you should always start from the point of view of open rather than closed, and therefore having oversight of what the inputs and the data into all this stuff is, because that's when things can come in, looking at something whether it's working right or not. And sometimes I feel as though that gets lost in the complexities of regulating this stuff. If you default to open, it's not closed, and that is a starting point.
Yes, it's really difficult to know where to start this, question you asked and where to start the answer. I think the thing I've found through all of my career is that data has become more and more fragmented, more and more siloed. And I do not believe that this idea that we can crawl any data that we want and need, that is just going to provide the right answer. I think what I've always learned is that technologists are much more interested in technology than they are in data. Data never sounds sexy, does it? I mean, I've spent my whole career trying to sell data, and it doesn't sound good, does it? Tech and AI and large language models, it sounds better. So I think the data industry has been pushing forward at sort of marketing the fact that data isn't an inert thing that comes in a block. It is the signal that we as humans, in my case, what I'm interested in, we as humans give every second of every minute of every day. How do you collect that? How do you know what's important? How do you know how much weight to give that? It's like, it's a quest that I think is a forever. And I absolutely agree with Martha that the more you know that this has been built and heavily weighted towards one variable, one kind of categorization than another, it makes more sense. But the big, powerful companies are still going to withhold their data. So what are we building it on? And who are we kidding when we say we've got the answer and we're building something for the future? I think, honestly, that we need to pay much more attention to where's the data coming from. We know already that a lot of data owners are very upset that all of their skill and all of their knowledge and all of their investment and their entire career is going to get swept up in what's there. But who are the experts in using it in this new world? And how many brands' value is going to get wiped off the face of the earth by the first horrible examples of how it's used?
I mean, that plays into another question we had, which was femtech and AI regulatory space. Is enough being done to, as some of the products marketed for women are sometimes lacking in evidence? In another part of my life, one thing that I'm always very passionate about is about sex and reproductive health and access to all of that. And horrifyingly, because I spend a lot of time talking to people about contraception and so on, a lot of young women relying on tech solutions, which at the moment are not that reliable at all. Does that? And I think that plays to what you're talking about. Yeah. Does it? Yeah.
Yes, and there are fears, but I don't want to come across as too negative because I am hugely excited about the fact that I think massive growth is and investment is coming towards women. I think wealth. I think there's a disparity. I talked about more women living longer, being on pensions. Sorry, but on the other hand, more wealth and investment is heading towards women, and it's huge. So suddenly, The financial organisations are going to start saying we need female advisors because women often want women to advise them. I think the health thing is even more exciting because we know we've not been studied before. We don't even use female mice. We use male mice to study everything. And that's because the female mice are busy giving birth to the next generation of mice. It's just great, isn't it? But I am really excited about the health benefits because you all know how much we are given a pill for fertility or contraception, and it's a standard pill, and it's sort of measured out for the average man. Let's face it, because the weight is calculated on the man. And so the excitement that we are actually going to be able to use personalised health solutions, medication, I think is fantastic. And we might actually, have better solutions for things like endometriosis. We might have better solutions for menopause. I think that's fantastic. And I think there's going to be a lot of money that's going to go into women's healthcare in the future. Because women, that market is still 50% of the world. That's a new market with new targeting, new solutions.
I agree with that, and I think it's also interesting to look at the whole world that's the global south rather than us the global north, where you're growing up in St. Caroline. There were also been patient amazing organisation called CAMFED for many years. One of the first organisations to help girls in Africa get into education across the continent. And the girls that come out and have a network that they follow through with other girls and support them to education. It's incredibly powerful, doing it for 30 years. And when you see the girls and talk to them, particularly I was just thinking in Tanzania, those girls are thinking digital first, and many of them are thinking AI first. And they're building solutions to problems that they see in their farming issues, selling their fish issue, much more micro businesses that they're, of course, building on their mobiles because that's the world that they're growing up in. So sometimes I think we're so stuck here. Look out in grey London, it feels like we're stuck here in the kind of sclerosis of some places. Actually, a lot of exciting energy happening in other countries where not being insane and challenges, but you see a different way of actually what's possible for you.
You had a quote in the book that I really loved about today, if you're not learning, then you're going to be obsolete. Something very, very quickly. It's not something to that effect. No matter who you are and where you are in your career. But a couple of questions that we've had about. Can you think of any examples of schemes or plans that have inspired and helped women to get into AI in ways that perhaps they wouldn't have done?
Well, my focus for getting women into AI is to get more women to take maths, because I think maths is really important for the understanding of how the data is going to be applied. So I spent 3 years promoting maths to all school children in the UK, and I'm, because actually girls tend not to choose maths after GCSE. So GCSEs, they have to do maths. After that, even though they tend to get better results than boys in their GCSEs, they choose not to study it later. And we found out all the reasons why, which are it's uncool, it's, the lessons are all with funny boys who are very clever and we don't want to be with them. And then afterwards, we don't really know what we can do with it. I mean, I think there's still a big job to communicate to schools who are working on careers that are lodged in almost like the Victorian century of get a job as a lawyer, be a doctor. I mean, nothing wrong, be a teacher, nothing wrong with any of those jobs. But do they know what AI does? Do they know that, if you get a physics degree, you can build career apps? They love their phone. They love looking at, half love looking at social media. But do they know how it's built? So I think getting maths and physics onto the agenda is really important. If you think about it, schools at the moment are only measured on their grades. They're not measured on the subjects they deliver to the country that they serve. So in the UK, Ofsted only measures on grades. If you actually measure and say what's more useful to the UK right now, maths, physics, chemistry, maybe a couple of others, would it change the way schools are incentivized? Because at the moment, they go, if you're likely to get a higher grade in English or history, do that because we want the grades and it's not about the job you're going to do afterwards. At the end of the 3 years that we did, we actually got an award for £600 for every school child that went on to do maths at A level for that school. So something did change. We did actually achieve something, and I am kind of proud that we actually changed something, because it seems to be a perennial problem. How do we get more women to do these, what are projected as tougher, more male subjects?
I think there's two things for me. The first is absolutely around education, culture around how you see these subjects and what these subjects become. I think it's complicated because it's changing so fast. Coding skills are not going to be so necessary in the future. What does your job actually look like if you want to be part of the AI sector? So I think that's different. But I actually also, and there are loads of organisations, I'm very it's amazing, STEMETS, Code First Girls, there's hundreds that are focusing on girls in that part. But I actually see it slightly differently. I think every woman who is active in the economy needs to think of themselves as an AI professional, because that's what we're all going to be to a degree. Every single industry and every single role is going to be affected by AI. So just as we're all affected by digital technology, sometimes that will be light touch, sometimes that will be much more deeply. And frankly, I don't think there's any excuse right now not just to play around with stuff and get to know. So in all the roles I do, I just try and encourage people to feel as though they are part of this already, because if you're working, you are. And I'm president of British Chambers of Commerce. We have about 100,000 businesses around the world, and 83 chambers, and everywhere I go, I encourage all the people in their workforce to play with this stuff, because it's never been easier to have a kind of fast track into what's happening. And I really do think it's on us all to encourage people to see this as part of their working life, not as something separate, and not as a barrier if you don't want to be the coder or the person building it. It's great to get more of those too, but that's not it.
You started off being fairly gloomy about the state of the world, and I absolutely understand why. But one of the things that I hold to is this: discrimination is a really, really expensive hobby. It really is. You just waste so much time that you don't know. And consequently, DEI, all the stuff that has really been torched with our flavour in the US, actually, it's not about being nice to people. That's really hard. Business sense, and that is, we've got tons of evidence about that that we built up, and that's not going to go away. We're coming towards the end of our talk today. Do read the book. Probably read the book, but
thank you.
It's a real trove of data and stories and tips. Partly what I wanted to ask you was the idea, the concepts of AI are a bit, that enthuses you as two people who've had the life that you have had in data. But what are the stories that you have inspired you that you would point other people towards?
Well, you asked me earlier about the themes of the book. I think the main theme of the book is that I don't think women are understood. And I think a lot of discrimination comes from fear of not understanding people, not understanding where they come from, what motivates them, what drives them. And so at the heart of this book is the fact that we have collected stories and data on 150,000 women. I mean, the female lead has 9 million followers, so it's a big community. And from that community, you know, my ambition is to collect a ground truth of data that doesn't have bias. And what we've looked at is women's emotional drivers. What is it that makes us get up in the morning? What is it that makes us proud of what we've done? And I think what's exciting is that once you understand that, it is easier to build a better world, to build a better workplace, and to engage everybody in a more balanced framework. I hope it's true that the reason a lot of male leaders don't have a better relationship with their female workforce is they're a little bit scared of them. They don't really know. You know how we all get labelled emotional? Well, you know, actually, I think men are emotional. We just tend to bang the table a bit more, right? So this is all about what are our emotions? How do we constantly make this assessment of work-life balance? And by understanding that, I think we can move forward more strongly and in a more balanced way. And the real-life stories of incredible women like Martha, like you, these stories every day are woven into the book so that we can actually see it, people of every size, shape, colour, industry, lifestyle. And actually, in many ways, we're unified by the choices we've made far more than by how we look. So if we can put aside how we look and think about the choices that we make, which this is what the data reflects, then we can create much better solutions.
A year ago, pretty much to the day, I was in Kakuma, which is a refugee camp in Kenya. I'm patron of a charity called I Am the Code, and they help girls in refugee camps to learn how to get digital skills. And it's everything from just getting online through to coding, through to now AI programs, and really tough, as you would imagine. And it's incredibly hard to get money for this project, and it's incredibly hard to get them operating in the camps. That's amazing. Lady Mariam started the project, refugee herself, and I was lucky enough to spend time a year ago with a bunch of girls in Kakuma. And I don't know if you've been to a refugee camp, but no surprises. It's complete chaos in many ways, but it's also not, because the towns are huge cities, like 2,000 people and all flooding over from South Sudan. But what really struck me, and I'd come to it in all my class backdrop, was I thinking, oh gosh, they're all going to be so depressed. And I got there, and this was the girls' room, right? Their reality was this. And they felt like the world was going to be theirs. And there were so many amazing young women who told me everything from, I'm going to be an astrophysicist. Obviously, I'm going to solve the climate problem, because that river there that was flowing 7 years ago when I came to the camp is now dried up, so we need to do something urgent. And I'm going to do it through code. And I have so many stories in my head, but the one that particularly resonated with me, because I had some interaction with this ask, was a woman, that's a young woman I left. Before I left, and I said, tell me what you want to do. And she said, I want to build rockets. And I said, well, that's pretty cool, because there's a bit of a monstrous man who builds rockets. She goes, I know. And I said, well, can you please hurry up, because we need you? And she said, I'm on it. And I thought, yeah, she's on it. So it's easy to forget that there are people who really believe in the purpose. Jaded old woman like me shouldn't be too happy, because there are other generations. Just
I absolutely do. I have been to refugee camps, and one thing is, refugees are really smart. They are people who got out from where they're going. And refugees and asylum seekers get really hard rap, unfair. We also are, I would say, always conscious that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And when I was thinking, I've been thinking about this for days, and I was thinking about two things that come back to me. One is back in the 1960s and 70s, when there was a spy scandal, it usually turned out to be the lady who was sitting in the corner, who the blokes were all giving the bits of paper. They thought she was too stupid to put it all together. Guess what? She wasn't. She was doing stuff like that. But the other thing was that I'm so old that I go way back, and every finance department that I had been the finance officer or the accountant was a man, but there was an army of women who were doing the work completely back in the day when it was all back. And there are generations of women in our club who really were good at maths. They never got their chances to fly like we did, but they were really, really good. And hidden figure, exactly. So my final question: any books or films that you would recommend? Because we've got that would be an inspiration in this sort of tech field.
The one that leapt into my head was Moneyball, but that's not good, is it? I mean, I love that. The fact that you can analyse all the plays, all the moves, and work out how to build a more balanced team and get a better result. And my dream is for everything that I get involved with is to think that data is going to show the way without emotion, without judgment. It really excites me. That was the one that leapt into my head.
Mine is a bit more personal. There's an extraordinary entrepreneur called Stephanie Shelley. Not enough of you. You should all have heard of her because we do really stand on her shoulders. She started a software business in the late 70s. All women, all working from home, all working on big, complicated government contracts and coding. And she's amazing. And she was a refugee. She came over with Kingdom Transport. She wrote a memoir called Let It Go. And I really commend it to all of you. It's a personal memoir. But she has transitioned from that extraordinary business, she always says, through to then changing her life. So she does show more than anything, different faces and lives. She's an incredibly humble and extraordinary person.
She is amazing. Go out and run out again. And yeah, Hidden Figures is just great. It doesn't make you angry and inspired at the one time. I want to say thank you so much. Thank you to Dawn Capital for having us in their swanky offices. Thank you to AI UK. AI UK are going to do some further events because we had a stack of questions that we couldn't get to. They're going to be doing another event. And my lovely assistant, she's just going to give me all the details, which is on April the 23rd. And it's taking responsibility for diversity and bias in AI. I think that's a really good one to watch. And yeah, given the sheer barbarity of what's going on in the United States at the moment, we begin to fight back by being smart. And we've proven today that we've got an awful lot of wherewithal to do that. And we don't have to sit around and wait for other people to come and help us do it. We've got some pointers to go. To our two speakers who've been so generous with their time. Thank you so much for coming along today. I hope everybody got at least something to take away. I'm sure you got a lot, but please thank you ladies who put together.